Hey, now welcome. You are listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. This is WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago, the voice of the nation, my favorite radio station. I'm so excited about the topic that we are going to discuss today. However, I just got to share a bit of news because as long as you all have known me, you have known this woman as long as you have ever heard my voice. If you've ever seen me speak, if you've ever seen me go anywhere and talk to people, whether it was at the Harold Washington Cultural Center in Chicago or the Los Angeles Convention Center in LA, of course, or if it was at Mega Fest with TD Jakes, or whether if it was at a Get Your Money Right Summit with Russell Simmons, no matter where I have been, no matter where I have gone, I have talked about this lady that everyone knows, and that is Grandma B. You know, I was born and raised in Chicago. As a matter of fact, my grandmother was 75 years old, cleaning homes for wealthy people, putting me through college, and she taught me everything that big mamas teach their grandchildren, such as go to school, get a good education, get a good job, go to church on Sunday, wear clean underwear in case you get hit by a bus. I don't know why she had to tell me that 10,000 times. I'm trying to figure out, why do I have to get hit by a bus? And if I get hit by a bus, will I have on any underwear when they find me? But that's a whole nother story. So when I got off to college, you all know I didn't really have a whole lot of money since. The only thing I knew about money was if I asked my grandmother for anything, she'd tell me to go look in the room on top of the shelf, behind the box, inside my pocketbook, inside the zipper, wrapped up in a piece of paper towel is $20. So I got a bunch of credit cards in college, couldn't pay anybody. And here I am today, having made so many mistakes and recovered and helping so many others recover. Well, Grandma B passed last week. She passed, and God rest her soul. And today is her birthday. So I know that this show will go down in history because I'm able to talk about it. There was a time when I couldn't even conceive of it. But she passed, and she passed the way anybody would pray for their loved one to pass. She went quickly without any drama. There was no sickness. There was no suffering. There was no hospital tubes. She just didn't go through all of that. She passed very quickly. And so although I was devastated at first, I am at peace. So for everybody who has sent their condolences and for everybody who loved Grandma B as much as I did and do and always will, know that she is at rest. And she basically was like, I'm about to get out of this joint. So she's not here, but she's with me in spirit and always will be. So I just had to say that. So today we are going to talk about the real deal about credit. Now, I have seen some interesting posts on social media, and I've seen some interesting perspectives. One of them basically said, it talked about Jay-Z and his 900 gazillion billion dollars. Like what does he have, like $1 trillion? I don't know what it is. And how he doesn't need any credit because he can just go and get what he needs. And an unnamed, I'm not going to say the name, financial expert who's out there all over the world as well, says, forget credit. If you have credit, that means you have debt. And he preaches debt freedom 100%. So I have something to say about both those perspectives. No, Jay-Z don't need any credit, but I do. Jay-Z don't need a credit card or a house or a mortgage, but I do. And so do you. So I don't need a credit card so I can have a spending addiction, but I need a card because have you ever tried to rent a car with a debit card? First of all, they want your blood type. They want everything that you have. And if your credit is not good, you're going to get one of those little credit cards from one of those little places. I'm not going to call any names. And you're going to have a $200 limit. And you cannot rent a car with $200 because the fee that they charge on top of the rental fee. So you might get a car and rent it for $19, but they're going to add $200 to cover themselves in the event that you don't turn the car in, you don't fill it up with gas, and so on. So you need a credit card. Don't believe the hype. And you need access to credit. Because, yes, I'm going to be a billionaire. Oh, it's going to happen. Oh, I'm going to have a big old billionaire party with everybody. Everybody's going to come. You're going to be there, and we're going to have a great time. And I'm going to show you how to get to 100 air, 1,000 air, a millionaire, and so on. But on the way, you need to maximize your credit and be wise about it. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. We have to take a break for for traffic and weather. We'll be right back. WVON.
More of the Millionaires Roundtable coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Are you struggling with your finances? Have you tried everything you can think of but just can't seem to get ahead on your own? Well, it's time to get some help. With a financial coach, you can find out what you don't know and learn to make better choices when it comes to your finances. Lynn Richardson's Wealth Vision 2020 Financial Coaching provides step-by-step instructions daily, a one-stop shop to create your budget, access to vetted financial coaches in specialized areas such as mortgages, insurance, real estate, investing, taxes, and more. Lynn Richardson and her team will help you set goals, undo bad habits, push you past your own beliefs, and gain peace with your finances. Go to www.lynnrichardson.com. That's www.lynnrichardson.com or call 888-LYNN-123. That's 888-596-6123 for more info today.
Hey, now, welcome back. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. This is WVON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. And today is Grandma B's birthday. So that's what today is for me, you, and everybody who is listening to this and who will listen to this forever. Because what I'm going to share with you today is going to change everything that you know and feel about credit. So if you have had a love-hate relationship with your credit, if your credit has not served you, if you have not served it, if you have had issues with it, first of all, join the other 50, 100,000, gazillion, billion of us, okay? So there are some people who are walking around on the planet who've never had a credit problem, who've never had any kind of issue with their credit, and God bless them. That's wonderful. But everybody else, the rest of the people around, have had some kind of issue, either having no credit, not enough credit, or just quite frankly, bad credit. And so we want to peel through the layers. And the first thing that we want to deal with, I want to share with you something that literally changed my life. And it came from Acts of Faith by Iyanla Vanzant. And it says, when you are experiencing financial chaos, your primary goal is to be free of debt. This requires discipline and structure. You may rebel against the notion of discipline because it feels as if you are being punished. But you must realize that you are punishing yourself. When you live beyond your means, if you spend without a budget, if you live without a plan, you are punishing yourself and your creditors. Let me repeat that. You may rebel against the notion of discipline because it feels as if you are being punished. But you must realize you are punishing yourself. When you live beyond your means, if you spend without a budget, if you live without a plan, you are punishing yourself and your creditors. When you are in debt, spending money without discipline means you are spending other people's money. Now, let's just stop right there, because I had a tumultuous relationship with money. And a part of my story is I got all the credit cards in college. I knew I couldn't pay the people when I got the credit cards. I didn't have any kind of practical way. Now, in my head, I could pay them. But this is what I need everybody to understand about what's in your head. What's in your head is dead if it is not bringing you life. Let me repeat. What's in your head is dead if it is not bringing you life. Let me help you understand how you can understand whether or not it is bringing you life. If it is making you free, if it is love-based, if it is the truth, and if it is getting you to the next level, then it is bringing you life. Otherwise, it is dead. I had a consultation this morning with one of my beautiful clients. I have them all over the world, and they go through their process and their steps. And finally, when they look at their budget, they get a chance to talk to me. So I don't simply help people on TV with Steve Harvey and Russell Simmons and Home and Family and Access Live, I help everyday people just like you, one-on-one, change your situation. And so she's been going through the 21 Days to Financial Freedom. And every step of the way, she's like, yes, I spend too much money. Yes, I'm shopping online. Like, she knows everything she's doing, but she's still doing it. And so I said, this is simple mathematics. 1 + 1 = 2. She said, yeah, I thought about that. I said, I need you to stop thinking. I need you to stop thinking, and I need you to start doing. Because what's also happening is she's in the cycle of knowing what to do, but intentionally not doing what she knows to do, but psyching herself into believing that she's changing it just because she's reading it, and she's not doing anything. So this was a game changer. It says when you are in debt, spending money without discipline means you are spending other people's money. You are withholding from the flow. You are blocking your abundance. If lack of discipline put you in debt, only discipline will get you out. Not a sugar daddy or a Splenda daddy. Okay, so a Splenda daddy is somebody who wants to be a sugar daddy, but they don't have enough money to do it. Or, you know, a sweet and low daddy or something like that. They don't have the whole flavor. They can't even come to the table. So a sugar daddy's not going to work. A Splenda daddy who only got a tenth of what it would take to even take care of you, that's not going to work. You're not going to find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And guess what? You're probably not going to win the lottery. And if you do, you're probably going to spend the money trying to win more. And if you get the big jackpot, then we know how those stories often end. As hard as it may be, as unfair as it may seem, your money is not your money when you are in debt. So when you charge a card and you promise to pay the person, you sign the card, and the bill comes and you don't pay, what happened is you just stole whatever you got. So if you went and signed for a pair of shoes and you promised to pay, and then when the bill comes, you don't pay, you stole those shoes. So that's what's happening. So I was devastated. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm just ratchet. I'm terrible. And now I'm a thief. I just put it all together. Give what you have to those whom you owe if you want your money to be rightfully yours. So, yes, I can talk about credit repair. I can talk about the companies. I can talk about the process. I'm going to do it. But I want you to actually change your mind. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I'm your host, Lynn Richardson. This is WVON, 1690 AM, and our goal is to create millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and that means you. We have to take a break for news, traffic, and weather with Annette Flournoy, and when I come back, I'm going to give you all the tips to get your credit straight. Don't turn that dial.
More of the Millionaires Roundtable coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Are you an exceptional real estate or financial services professional? Do you have a business or service that can improve the lives of others? You may qualify to serve the world as a member of Lynn's List. Visit www.lynnmillionaire.com. That's www.lynnmillionaire.com or call 888-LYNN-123 extension 5. That's 888-LYNN-123 extension 5 for more details.
Hey, now, welcome back. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. This is WVON, 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago, the voice of the nation. We are dedicated to creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, one dime at a time. And that means you, and everybody. Everybody has the capacity and the ability to reach $1 million net worth, which simply means the difference between everything you own minus what you owe is 7 figures or higher. And so we just have to get there $1 at a time. We're talking about today is the real deal about credit. And the number one thing that we have to get our minds wrapped around is that we want to be able to leverage credit to get the things that we need. Credit should not be used to satisfy wants. So if you're going into the store or the department store or the specialty store and you want to get some new lingerie, not interested in that. No. And when they ask you to apply for the card so you can get 20% off, and then you end up spending more than what you intended because now you're going to charge up to what you can now get, and you're going to go back and get more stuff. That's what I used to do. I would come to the counter, I'd have 3 things. They say, oh, well, you can get X amount off. Oh, how much can I spend now? So I go and spend more money. And, of course, when the bill comes, I didn't pay it all off. I didn't do it. So now I simply say no to those things because those are truly wants. Those are things that I want. Now, should you have a card or two to start off your credit life? Yes. Get a traditional Visa or MasterCard from a reputable bank. If you have to start with a secured credit card, that's fine. Start there. Keep your balance low and your credit limit as high as possible. So if your credit limit is $1,000, keep your balance under $300. Try to keep your balance under 30% of the available credit line. That's how you increase your credit score. And pay the bill on time every month. On time means no more than 30 days late. So if the bill is due October 1st, it must be paid by October 31st in order to not count as 30 days late. Now, that's 31 days, but the next 30-day cycle begins on the same day of the following month. So if the bill is due October 1st, it must be paid before November 1st. Don't pay it on October 31st because it may take a day or two for it to be credited to your account. So you want to try to pay it on time, on the day, pay the thing off in full. And if you can't do that, make sure that you don't extend it for more than 30 days. If you are in a situation where you think you're not going to be able to pay your credit cards, then you want to communicate. You don't want to pay the bill late and then talk about it after the fact. You want to call them before the bill is late and figure out what your options are. You may have an option to suspend the payments. You may have an option to transfer the card to another card with a lower interest rate, which gives you a smaller payment. There are so many things. I want you to open your mouth. Unfortunately, what happens when we face financial issues is we get ashamed and quiet. We don't want to talk to anybody. And we think that there's nothing that can be done because we don't have the solution. And the smarter you are, the worse off you are because you think because you're smart, you should figure it out. But the truth is you don't know what you don't know and you think you know. And that is a recipe for disaster and failure. So life rule number 1 is until you become disciplined enough to handle the great responsibility and gift of credit, the primary use of credit should be to supply your needs, not satisfy your wants. Once again, to supply your needs and not satisfy your wants. Let me give you a simple reason why you do need some credit. Let's say you decide you want to go from renting to owning a home. You need a credit history in order to accomplish that goal. If you do not have a credit history, then you will not be eligible for a typical conventional mortgage. You may only be eligible at that point for an FHA mortgage, which isn't a bad idea. FHA will build a credit report for you. It's called a residential mortgage credit report, and they will take things like your cell phone bill, the rent that you pay to your landlord, the tuition that you pay to daycare for your child, and they will call them. They will verify that you have paid that amount every month for however many months you paid it, and they will create a credit report that the lender can look at. However, if you want to expand, if you want to buy investment property, if you want to get a different type of a mortgage, you will need a credit history. And in many cases, you need a minimum credit score of 620. So I am not 100% saying you don't need any credit. I just can't say that because you do need access to credit. And if you respect credit, it will respect you, which brings me to principle number 2. Treat your money and your creditors as you would have your debtors treat you. Let me repeat. Treat your creditors as you would have your debtors treat you. It's the golden rule. I call it the golden rule of credit. So remember the last time somebody borrowed $50 from you and promised to pay you back on Friday? Everybody has had that happen. Everybody. You've had somebody call you to borrow $50 and they promised to pay you back on Friday. Now, here's my issue. If you're going to call me to borrow some money and you only need $50, you need more than $50. So I'm concerned about you. Because if you don't have $50, then you don't have a whole lot more than that. I'd rather you call me with a strategy to invest $10,000 because I know that you've got a plan that's bigger than survival. If you only need $50, you are in straight, flat survival mode. So, of course, I've been there. I had to call Grandma B for gas money, all kind of stuff. But what I'm saying to you is, on Friday, when that person doesn't call you back or when that person doesn't pay you back, you're pissed off. You want to talk to everybody. You're angry with people. You're upset. And what do you say? You say, it's not the money, it's the principle. Well, it's the same thing. It's the same situation with your creditors. It's the principle and it's the money, because they lent money to you expecting you to pay back. And when you don't do that, then there's a whole cycle of things that begin to happen. Now, of course, I have my position about how banks leverage credit. You could have no late payments for 50 years, and your credit score can be 800, and you could make one late payment, and your credit score can plummet 200 points. I don't think that's fair. I do believe that the system is unfair. I do believe that the system is rigged to treat you unfairly. I believe that. However, it's the system that we have. And until it changes, we need to learn how to master it and operate in it. So treat your creditors as you would have your debtors treat you. Had that family member or friend or whomever it is called you and said, listen, I don't have the money. I'm living check to 2 o'clock. I'm living check to Monday. I thought I was going to have it. My check was short. My account is overdraft. Whatever their situation is, you are probably going to say, okay, what can you pay me and when can you pay me? So you need to believe that that's possible with your creditors. One of my most dynamic credit cases was my friend who, rest in peace, she called me before she made any late payments, and she knew that she was no longer going to be able to juggle the credit game, where she was taking money from one credit card to pay the other bills and so on and so forth. She called me in September of 2008, and she said, I'm not going to be able to pay anything next month. So in order to protect her credit, she filed bankruptcy. Once she filed bankruptcy, not only did her credit scores go up because she no longer owed anybody anything, but she was able to quickly recover after bankruptcy to reestablish herself. So I'm not telling everybody to file bankruptcy. What I'm saying is speak up, understand the rules, and get yourself to the next level. So here are a few things that I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you the steps to what you need to be responsible with your credit. We're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I'm your host, Lynn Richardson. It's WVON, 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago, the voice of the nation. Number one, check your credit reports at least once a year. I say check it all the time. Sign up for a credit monitoring service that also includes identity theft, so you can see any adjustments and changes that are happening to your credit. Check your credit reports at least once a year with all three credit bureaus, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. All three of them. You can go individually to transunion.com, Experian.com, or Equifax.com, or you can go to a credit service like MyFICO and so on. Number two, make sure your credit is reported under a consistent name. If you use a middle initial, use it all the time. If you don't, then don't. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I'm your host, Lynn Richardson. We have to take a break for news and, traffic and weather. Let me tell you, I get confused, okay? We have to take a break for traffic and weather with Annette Flournoy. We'll be right back. WVON.
You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable with Lynn Richardson on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 AM, WVON.
Legacy for your loved ones. Do you know the difference between an estate plan and a will? Are you newly engaged and concerned about getting a prenuptial agreement? Are you married to your child's mother or father, and do you know what happens to insurance money if you are not? Call your wealth counselor, Attorney Deidre Wood-Stokes. With over 22 years of experience, Attorney Stokes has all the answers you need to help you secure your family's financial future. You can find Attorney Stokes on Lynn's List at www.lynnmillionaire.com. That's www.lynnmillionaire.com, or call 888-LYNN-123. That's 888-596-6123. Protect your legacy now.
Hey, now, welcome back. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson, and this is WVON. We are committed to creating millionaires one family at a time, and that means you. and we are talking about the real deal about credit. So we've dealt with life rule number one, that until you become disciplined enough. What do I mean by disciplined enough? The people who actually have an excellent financial portfolio, meaning they have the wherewithal to expand their resources, they have the ability to grow their businesses, they can buy anything they want, but they don't. Again, let me repeat. They can buy anything they want, but they don't, because it's not emotional. It gets to be about a very objective process of understanding what do I need, what is going to benefit me. And so if you are emotionally attached, it's going to be a recipe for disaster. So until you become disciplined enough to handle the great responsibility and gift of credit, the primary use of credit should be to supply your needs and not satisfy your wants. And then respect your money and treat your creditors as you would have your debtors treat you. It's really simple. When you start to look at it from that perspective, then it gives you the drive and it gives you the thought system that you need in place to learn to be responsible. Now, of course, there are some things that are beyond your control. There are medical expenses that you may not have planned for because you became ill, and whether you did what you were supposed to do to not become ill or not, the truth is you're ill and you want to save your life. So you go to the doctor, and then there are these things that are not covered by your insurance, and then you are faced with them. Then again, you still have to communicate with the hospital to say, can you put me on a payment plan? What can you pay? I can pay $10 a month. I can pay $25 a month. They say yes or they say no. If they say no and the bill is $100 million, then you need to file bankruptcy. It's real simple. There's a process that you can go through to get there. Now, if it's in your mind, well, I'm thinking, I need you to stop thinking, because your best thinking got you here to a place where you are underwater. You don't have to get underwater. Get help. So number one, check your credit reports at least once a year. Number two, make sure your credit is reported under a consistent name. Number three, if you are not married, be cautious when applying for joint accounts or co-signing for other accounts. And if you are married, you don't have to put everything in both people's names. I don't want you to do that. If you put everything in both names, if something happens and the economy crashes or something catastrophic happens in your family, then everybody's credit is going to be attacked if you do that. In the foreclosure crisis, one of the first things to happen was wealthy people left their homes. They were underwater. I owe $500,000. It's only worth $100,000. Guess what? I'm out of here, and we're going to go buy a new house for $150,000 in the wife's name because her name wasn't on this mortgage. We've got to keep ourselves open to be strategic, and you cannot live by fear. You have to choose fear or love, and I'm just going to say this and leave it right there. You can either worship God with your faith or you can worship the enemy with your fear, but you cannot do both at the same time. So if you are in a healthy relationship, you should be okay with adding one person's name to certain assets. And if you are fearful that that person is going to do something, leave you, you either A, need a prenuptial agreement, or B, you need to get somebody else. You don't need to be in a relationship with someone that you're afraid they're going to do something terrible to you. Like, I wouldn't even be in a relationship with you if I feared that you were going to do something terrible to you. And you should be confident enough to protect yourself. Number 4, be careful about adding your name as an authorized buyer to other people's accounts. Those accounts will show up on your credit as well. Now, one of the things that I did for my youngest daughters is I made them an authorized buyer on 2 credit cards that I've had for many, many years. So my youngest daughter, Kennedy, walks right out the gate with a 690 credit score. So you can leverage authorized credit to build someone else's credit so that they have opportunities and access. Why? Because next year, I'm going to use the Kitty Condo program to buy my daughters a property so that they can move off campus, where we're collectively $18,000 is being allocated every year to housing for them to share a room with 3 other people, when I could buy a single family home or a townhouse or a condo. Each of them will get a room or share a room and then rent out the other rooms to their roommates. And now the money that you're getting from the roommates is going to pay the mortgage, and you've got money left over. So it's about being strategic, and they need a good credit score to do that. Consider applying for secured credit. Number 5, If you buy something on credit today, I want you to think about how you're going to feel if you're still paying for it 6 months later. Let me tell you what stopped me from using department store credit cards. I used to love Coach purses. That was my thing, and I would get them from Marshall Fields. One day, I bought a purse from Marshall Fields with my Marshall Fields card, and 6 months later, I was still paying for the purse. I didn't even like the purse anymore. I was so irritated with myself. So I want you to think about how you're going to feel when you are paying for something 6 months later. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I'm your host, Lynn Richardson. Reach out to me at lynnmillionaire.com or go follow me at lynnmillionaire. Get help. I'll send you all of the details that you need for the credit health and for the road to home ownership, respecting, repairing, and protecting your credit. It's WVON. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.